My name is Janice Wu, and I'm 26 now. And for 7 years, my parents kept me on a leash made of guilt, fear, and one ugly secret they swore they saved me from. Reddit probably never thought I'd be the woman typing out her family trauma for strangers, but here we are. Grab some popcorn, because this story isn't just about favoritism or blackmail. It's about how people who are supposed to protect you can build a cage around you and call it love. First, you need to understand my family dynamic. I have a younger sister, Emily, who's 23. She's been the golden child since the day she was born. Not subtle preference golden child. I mean can do no wrong favoritism that would make you think my parents were doing a long-running comedy bit. Emily could set a church on fire, and my parents would probably blame the candles for being too tempting. Me? I was the backup kid, the trial run, the daughter they had before they figured out the right way to parent, meaning the way that revolved around Emily. Emily got everything. A new car at 16, college tuition handed over like it was a basic human right, designer clothes, concert tickets, trips, European vacations. She'd breathe and my mom would sigh. She's just so special. I brought home a B+ once and got a 30-minute lecture about wasting my potential. My parents weren't even angry in a normal way. They were offended, like my grade personally insulted them. Even our bedrooms were a metaphor. When we moved houses when I was 14, I ended up in a basement room with a tiny window near the ceiling. Emily got the master bedroom upstairs because she needed natural light for her art. Her art, by the way, was mostly buying expensive supplies that sat untouched in a corner while she watched Netflix. My parents paid for all of it anyway. Paint sets, tablets, cameras, lenses. Every time she got bored and quit something, they called it exploring her gifts. When I needed things, textbooks, fees, tools, I worked. If I complained, my dad would say, "That's life. You need to learn responsibility." Christmas was always the clearest proof that I wasn't imagining it. Emily's gifts would be a pile worth $2 or $3 grand. Gaming systems, jewelry, designer shoes, tickets. My pile was practical. Socks, deodorant, a $50 Target card. One year, Emily got a trip to Paris for her 18th birthday. For mine, a card with $20 inside and a note that said, "Treat yourself to dinner." I treated myself to Chipotle and put the rest toward my electrician exam fees. Emily never worked a day in her life. She dropped out of college after 2 years because it was too stressful. Now she lives in my parents' basement with her deadbeat boyfriend Justin, making TikToks and complaining about how hard life is. She calls it a photography business. In 3 years, it's made maybe $400. My parents subsidize everything: food, rent, insurance, even his business ideas. Justin is his own nightmare. 25. Never kept a job longer than 3 months. Always chasing the next big thing. Last year it was NFTs. Before that, it was a conspiracy podcast with 7 total downloads, 5 of which were probably him refreshing the page. I, on the other hand, have been working since I was 15. Construction during the day, night classes, community college, apprenticeships. I saved every penny with one goal: get out. Build a life so independent my parents couldn't dangle anything over my head. That plan was going fine until the summer I was 19. It was right after my first year of community college. I still lived at home, working construction during the day and taking night classes. My schedule was brutal, but I liked the exhaustion. It meant I was moving forward. Then my parents decided to throw one of their random backyard barbecues, the kind where they invited church friends, drank wine, smiled too hard, and acted like our family was normal. Normally, I'd find an excuse to work late or disappear. That day, I was dead tired and just wanted to crash in my room. My mom insisted I stay. It would be rude not to socialize, she said, like she'd ever cared about my social life before. I should have caught the weirdness right then. That's when I met Brittany. My mom introduced her with this bright, eager energy she never used on me. "Janice," she said, gripping my arm a little too tightly, "there's someone I want you to meet." She dragged me over to where Brittany stood by the pool, staring at her phone like she was bored out of her mind. "Brittany, this is my daughter I told you about." Brittany looked up and smiled. Blonde hair, blue eyes, confident posture. She didn't seem shy or childish. She had that polished, practiced vibe of someone who knew exactly how to hold attention. "Hey," she said, "your mom said you're in college. What are you studying?" We hit it off immediately. She was funny, easy to talk to, and she actually seemed interested in what I said, like my opinions mattered. That alone was disorienting. People don't realize how starved you can get for basic validation until it shows up unexpectedly. We talked about music, movies, dumb party food, random life stuff. She told me she had just graduated high school and was taking a gap year before college. She wanted to travel, figure herself out. I was 19. She said she was 18. I had zero reason to doubt it. She looked 18. She acted mature. She said all the right things. As the party went on, we kept gravitating back to each other. My mom kept giving me these strange, encouraging looks that, at the time, I interpreted as approval. Like maybe she'd finally decided I was worth investing in. That should have been my first red flag. My mom didn't encourage me, not unless she wanted something. When the party started winding down, Brittany asked if I wanted to show her my car. I had an old Mustang I was restoring. It was my pride. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. We went into the garage. We sat in the car talking, the doors closed, the world muffled. The conversation turned quiet and personal. Dreams, futures, how weird parents could be. The kind of talk that makes you feel like someone is seeing you for the first time. Then she kissed me. One thing led to another, and yes, we hooked up in my car. Nothing forced, nothing violent. Nothing that would have made me think twice. She was fully participating, fully into it, the one initiating half the moves. When it was over, she smiled like we'd shared a secret. She left later that night with her parents. We exchanged numbers. She texted me that she had fun. We messaged for a few days, then her replies slowed down and stopped. I figured she'd lost interest. It stung, but not enough to spiral. That's dating sometimes. For about 3 weeks, life went on. And then my whole world imploded. I was sitting in electrical theory class, one of my harder courses, when my phone started blowing up. Missed calls from both my parents. Then a text from my mom. "Come home now. Emergency." Then another. "This is serious. Leave now." My stomach dropped. I drove home with my hands shaking on the steering wheel, convinced someone had died. I ran through every nightmare scenario: car crash, hospital, heart attack. When I walked in, both my parents were sitting in the living room with devastated faces. My mom's eyes were swollen like she'd been crying for hours. My dad looked cold, like the warmth had been drained out of him. Emily was nowhere to be seen. "Sit down," my dad said. "What happened?" I asked, voice already breaking. "Is everyone okay?" My dad didn't answer that. He said, "We need to talk about Brittany." My heart sank so fast, it felt like I was falling through the floor. "What about her?" My mom started sobbing harder, burying her face in a tissue. That's when my dad said the words that stopped time. "She's not 18, Janice. She's 15. The air left my lungs. He kept talking, but I barely heard him at first. Something about her parents finding out. Something about threats. Something about police. Then the words sharpened into meaning. Statutory rape. Sexual assault. Charges. Prison. Registry. My ears started ringing. I couldn't breathe. My hands went numb. "That's not..." I choked. "She told me she was 18. She said she graduated high school. I didn't... She kissed me first. It doesn't matter what you think happened," my dad snapped, and the disgust on his face wasn't aimed at the situation. It was aimed at me. "She's a minor. You're an adult. Do you understand what that means?" My mom cut in through sobs. "They want you arrested. They want you on the sex offender registry. They want you in prison. I remember this strange, detached thought. This can't be real. This can't be my life. But it was. And in that moment, I watched every plan I'd built, my career, my independence, my future, evaporate into smoke. Then my dad told me they'd fixed it. They'd paid $40,000 to make it go away. No police, no charges, no trial. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt sick because relief didn't erase the terror of what almost happened. And it definitely didn't erase the way my parents looked at me like I was something rotten they'd been forced to clean up. "Do you understand what your mistake cost us?" my dad said, voice flat. $40,000. My mom leaned forward, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "You never speak about this again. Never. If anyone finds out, even if there aren't charges, your life is still over." I nodded. I promised. What else could I do? And right there, sitting on that couch, shaking, ashamed, terrified, my parents planted the seed that would control me for the next 7 years. They didn't just save me, they owned me. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd crawled out of a car wreck I didn't remember getting into. For a few seconds, I lay there staring at my ceiling, thinking maybe it had all been a nightmare. Then the weight came crashing back. The words minor, prison, registry, the way my dad had looked at me like I was contaminated. Downstairs, my parents were already up. My mom barely met my eyes. My dad acted like nothing had happened, which somehow made it worse. The house felt different, smaller, like I was being watched. They sat me down again before I left for work. "We've taken care of this," my dad said, "but you need to understand how close you came to destroying your life. And ours." My mom nodded, dabbing at her eyes. "We saved you, Janice. Most parents wouldn't have." Saved. That word settled into my chest and stayed there. They laid out the rules. I was never to contact Brittany again, never to speak about the incident, never to question how they handled it. Gratitude was implied. Obedience was expected. And the money, $40,000, hung between us like a silent contract. I didn't argue. I couldn't. I was 19 years old, convinced that one wrong word could send me to prison. Fear makes you agreeable like that. I went back to my routine, but everything felt poisoned. I worked longer hours, took extra shifts. Every spare dollar I made went into a separate savings account labeled debt. I didn't tell anyone what it was for. I didn't tell anyone anything. The guilt was constant, crushing. I replayed that night over and over, searching for signs I'd missed, warnings I'd ignored. I stopped trusting my own judgment entirely. For the next 4 years, I worked like someone trying to outrun a ghost. Construction during the day. Residential electrical work at night and on weekends. I lived on instant noodles and cheap coffee. No vacations, no dates, no distractions. I paid my parents back every cent of that $40,000 because I believed it was the price of my freedom. Every payment felt like penance. By 21, I got my electrician's license. By 23, I started my own small contracting business. I was good at it, focused, meticulous, obsessive. Fear makes a great motivator, but it also keeps you alone. I had nightmares about prison, about my face on a registry map, about neighbors whispering. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding, convinced someone had found out. Dating felt impossible. Every time someone flirted with me, my brain screamed, verify their age. The paranoia killed any spark before it could start. On the rare occasions I did go on dates, I kept everything shallow. No past, no vulnerability. I couldn't risk someone knowing. My relationship with my parents changed too, though at the time I didn't have the language for it. Every interaction carried an invisible ledger. If I skipped Sunday dinner, my mom would sigh and say, "After everything we've done for you." If I hesitated when they asked for help, my dad would remind me, "We didn't have to step in back then." They never said prison again. They didn't have to. The implication did all the work. Emily knew about it. I found that out during one of her drunken rants at a family gathering. At least I didn't almost catch a case, she laughed, wine glass sloshing. Mom and Dad had to drop 40 grand because you couldn't keep it in your pants. Everyone went quiet. My parents didn't correct her. They didn't tell her to stop. My mom just shot me a look that said, "Don't make a scene." Emily used it whenever she wanted something. Help moving, money, favors. "Come on, Janice," she'd say sweetly. "You owe Mom and Dad, and we're family." And it worked. Every time. By the time I was 24, I'd saved enough to buy a small house. 2-bedroom, 1 bath, built in the late 70s. It needed work, but that didn't scare me. Fixing things was something I understood. The day I got the keys, I sat on the bare living room floor and cried. Not from happiness exactly, but from relief. This house felt clean, untouched by lies, paid for with my own hands. I spent 6 months renovating it. New floors, updated electrical, fresh paint, a bathroom overhaul. I turned it from a sad fixer-upper into something I was proud of. My parents came by once. They stayed 10 minutes. My mom commented on how small it was. My dad frowned at the neighborhood. Then my mom said casually, "Emily wouldn't want to live here." I didn't understand why that sentence bothered me so much at the time. I just felt this cold prickle of unease. Around then, I met Jason. He was a nurse at the hospital where I was doing electrical work, rewiring one of the older wings. We kept running into each other, me covered in dust and sweat, him in scrubs with coffee in hand. He started bringing me extra coffee. We talked between his rounds. He was calm, observant, the kind of guy who listened without interrupting. After a few weeks, he asked me out. Our first date was at a small Mexican place. Nothing fancy. But the conversation flowed in a way I wasn't used to. Jason didn't push, didn't pry. He just showed up. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe around someone. I still didn't tell him about Brittany. I told myself I would, eventually. When things were serious, when I was sure. 8 months later, my parents dropped the bomb. They invited me to dinner like it was nothing. Halfway through the meal, my mom set her fork down and said, "We've been thinking about Emily's future." My dad nodded. "She needs stability." Then my mom smiled at me. "You have that house now." The words landed heavy. They wanted me to give my house to my sister. Not sell it, not rent it. Give it. Emily looked smug, already convinced it was a done deal. I said no. That's when the reminders started. That's when the tone changed. That's when I realized the debt I thought I'd paid off had never actually been cleared. After I said no, the calls started. At first, they were almost polite, careful. Like my parents thought this was a misunderstanding they could smooth over with the right tone. "Janice, you're being emotional," my mom said on the phone the next morning. "We're just talking about what's best for the family." Text messages followed, voicemails, missed calls piling up while I was on job sites, gloves on, hands deep in wiring. Emily texted me too. "Hey, big sis, can we talk like adults? You know Mom and Dad helped you when you needed it. This isn't about you. Stop being selfish." When I didn't respond, the messages turned sharp. "You've always been like this. You think you're better than us. You wouldn't even have a life if it wasn't for them." Justin chimed in next. A long, rambling message about how family sacrifices work, how I was doing fine, how Emily deserved a break. The audacity of a man who'd never paid rent in his life, explaining fairness to me, would have been funny if it hadn't been terrifying. Then my mom started showing up at my job sites. She'd just appear, heels clicking over gravel, hair perfectly done, while I was in the middle of a job. "We need to talk," she'd say loudly, right in front of my crew. I told her I was working. "This is more important than work," she insisted. "Your sister needs a home." By the third time, my foreman pulled me aside. "Everything okay? Your mom keeps causing scenes." I lied. Said it was family stuff. Said I had it under control. I didn't. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I got home from work and walked into my living room to find Emily and Justin sitting on my couch. They hadn't knocked. Emily still had a key from when she'd helped me move in. What are you doing here? I demanded. Emily didn't even look up from her phone. We're measuring for furniture. Justin stood up, puffing his chest like he thought that would help. Your parents said you're signing the house over this weekend. We just wanted to plan ahead. I felt something inside me crack. Get out. Emily laughed. Don't be dramatic. We're going to be living here anyway. No, I said. You're not. Justin stepped closer. Listen, Janice, your parents did you a huge favor years ago. Now it's time to return it. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I do, he said, smirking. Emily told me everything. About the underage girl, about how your parents paid to make it disappear. Now they're cashing in. I stared at my sister. You told him? She shrugged. He's basically my husband. We don't have secrets. The room felt unreal, like I was watching myself from the outside. Get out of my house, I said, my voice shaking. Both of you. Or what? Justin asked. You going to call the cops? That'll be a fun conversation when they hear about your past. Something snapped. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Say that again? His face drained of color. I didn't mean, if either of you steps foot in my house without permission again, I said. I will call the police for trespassing, and I don't care what lies you tell them. They left, but Emily paused at the door. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. Mom and Dad gave you a chance to do this the easy way. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying Justin's words, how casually he'd said it, how easily Emily had handed over my biggest secret like it was gossip. At 2 a.m., I called Lena, my best friend since high school. She answered on the third ring. Someone better be bleeding. I need to talk, I said. My voice cracked. I drove to her apartment and told her everything. The party, Brittany, the accusation, the money, the years of guilt and obedience, the house. Lena listened without interrupting. When I finished, she sat back, eyes narrowed. Janice, she said slowly, none of this makes sense. What do you mean? Your parents introduced you to this girl at their own party, at their house. Then 3 weeks later, she accuses you, and they pay $40,000 to make it go away? I felt defensive. That's what happened. Okay, but why invite a 15-year-old to a barbecue full of adults? And why introduce her to you specifically? She leaned forward. And if her parents really thought you assaulted their daughter, why negotiate? Why not go straight to the police? The questions hit harder than I expected. I don't know. And why would your parents keep records of something so illegal for 7 years? Lena continued. Why weaponize it now? The room felt too quiet. You think they set me up? I whispered. I think you've never questioned them because you were too busy hating yourself, she said gently. And they liked it that way. Control. The word echoed in my head. For 7 years, they'd had total power over me. I did whatever they asked, never said no, never pushed back. Because I thought I owed them my life. What do? I asked. Find the truth, Lena said. Because if they lied about this, they'll lie about anything. The next day, I hired a private investigator. It cost $3,000 up front. I didn't hesitate. I gave him everything I remembered. Brittany's name, the church connection, the neighborhood her parents lived in. What exactly are you hoping to find? He asked. The truth, I said, no matter what it is. 2 weeks later, he called me. I found her, he said. You're going to want to sit down. I sat down on the edge of my bed so fast I nearly missed it. Tell me, I said. The investigator, Mark, didn't rush. Brittany is living about 45 minutes outside the city. She's 22 now, works as a dental assistant. No criminal record, clean life. My stomach twisted. Okay, there's more, he said. Your parents didn't pay her parents. I felt a sharp chill. What do you mean? They paid her. Directly. He emailed me documents while we were on the phone. I opened them with shaking hands. Bank statements, 7 years old. 2 separate transfers from my mother's personal account. $15,000, 3 days before the barbecue. $25,000, 2 weeks after the accusation. Both deposited into an account Brittany had opened just days earlier. They said they paid her parents, I whispered. They lied, Mark said calmly. And that's not all. He'd pulled phone records, old ones, My mom's number showed repeated contact with Brittany in the weeks leading up to the party. Text messages. He read them out loud. Tell her you just graduated high school. Say you're taking a gap year. Be friendly, but let her make the first move. My ears started ringing. They knew, I said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Mark replied. They knew her age. They coached the lie. Then they paid her to accuse you. I felt like I was going to throw up. Why? I asked. Why would they do this to me? There was a pause. Control, he said, and leverage. This kind of setup doesn't happen accidentally. He sent everything. Screenshots, timelines, records. When the call ended, I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall, feeling something inside me finally burn clean through. That night, I told Jason, all of it. I expected doubt, fear, distance. Instead, he listened quietly, jaw tight, hands clenched in his lap. They stole 7 years from you, he said when I finished, and now they want your house. I was so scared you'd think that you did something wrong, he cut in. No, I think your parents are monsters. I cried harder than I had in years. 2 days later, I drove to Brittany's apartment. I almost turned around 3 times. When she opened the door, coffee mug in hand, her face drained of color, she tried to shut it. Please, I said quickly. I'm not here to hurt you. I just need the truth. She stared at me for a long moment, then sighed and stepped aside. We sat on opposite ends of her couch. My parents contacted me through my aunt, she said quietly. Your mom said she needed help with a family situation. She told me everything. The money, the instructions, the lie about teaching me a lesson. How it spiraled beyond what she expected. I was 15, she said, voice shaking. My family was about to lose our house. $15,000 felt like salvation. What about the accusation? I asked. She swallowed. Your mom said it wasn't serious, that it would scare you into being more dependent. She paid me another $25,000 to tell my parents you forced me. I closed my eyes. Will you testify? I asked. Tell the truth? Yes, she said. If you don't press charges against me. I won't, I said immediately. She signed an affidavit that night. The next week was a blur. A lawyer. Evidence compiled. Timelines. Recordings of my parents threatening me if I didn't give Emily the house. My lawyer leaned back after reviewing it all. This is fraud, extortion, conspiracy, witness tampering, he said. Your parents could go to prison. Good, I replied. I'm done protecting them. I invited my parents and Emily over, told them I was ready to discuss transferring the house. They arrived smiling. My mom brought wine. Emily started taking pictures for Instagram. I handed them each a folder. Open it. Their faces changed page by page. Confusion, disbelief, terror. I know what you did, I said calmly. 7 years ago. All of it. My mom's hands shook. This isn't... It's been turned over to the police, I said, showing them the DA's email confirmation. An investigation is already open. Emily started crying. My dad tried to threaten me. You'll destroy this family. You destroyed it, I said. I'm just telling the truth. I told them to leave. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. My parents were arrested on a Tuesday morning. I didn't see it in person. I didn't need to. Lena sent me the link to the local news article with a single text. They're in custody. Fraud, extortion, conspiracy, witness tampering. The DA didn't hesitate. When something is documented that cleanly, there's nowhere to hide. Their mugshots hit the paper that afternoon. My dad looked smaller than I remembered. Gray, hollow. All that authority he'd wielded for years collapsed into a single frozen image. My mom's mascara was gone. Her mouth pulled tight like she still believed she could explain her way out of it. Bail was set at $100,000 each. They couldn't afford it. Emily lost her mind. She flooded my phone with calls until I blocked her. Then came the emails, then burner numbers. She launched a GoFundMe, painting me as a vindictive daughter who destroyed her family out of jealousy. It raised $340. Then people started posting links to the court documents in the comments. Screenshots, news articles. GoFundMe shut it down within hours. Jason called it poetic efficiency. The trial came 3 months later. I testified calmly. Brittany testified honestly. The bank records spoke louder than anyone. The text messages were read out loud in court, my mother's words echoing in a room where she no longer controlled the narrative. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. My dad was sentenced to 18 months federal time and $50,000 in fines. My mom got 14 months and $35,000. Both were ordered to pay me restitution, $40,000 plus damages. When the cuffs went on, I didn't feel joy. I felt release. Emily screamed when the verdict was read. Actually screamed. Security had to escort her out. She tried to corner me in the hallway, slapped me, and earned herself a permanent courthouse ban. That was the last time I saw her in person. 8 months later, my parents are still incarcerated. I haven't visited. I haven't written back. I don't need closure conversations with people who planned my ruin and called it love. Emily and Justin lost my parents' house to foreclosure. They bounced through friends' couches before landing in a trailer park outside town. For the first time in their lives, they're both working real jobs. Justin in a warehouse, Emily waitressing. She still sends messages sometimes. New numbers. Same venom. You destroyed our family. You'll regret this. I hope you're happy. I block them and go on with my day. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Setting fire to a lie doesn't leave you with ashes. It leaves you with space. Space to breathe. Space to sleep without nightmares. Space to own your life without asking permission. My house is quiet now. Clean. Mine. I drink coffee on the porch in the mornings. Jason sleeps over most nights. We're talking about the future, slowly, honestly, without fear. For 7 years, I thought guilt was proof I was a good daughter. It wasn't. It was proof I was being controlled. Some people don't deserve forgiveness. They deserve distance. And I finally gave myself that.